My cousin Teresa told us the building collapsed. I couldn't believe it. I don't even think I was able to talk. I was like, oh my God.
Do any of you remember a moment where you're like, he's not coming home?
I just knew. I knew the minute I woke up that morning. I had some hope, but it was too long. The way it hit the building and the smoke, there's no way they could have survived that smoke. Even if we found him gone, at least we had him, you know?
Gina came through the garage and she was like in her pajamas. She was like literally in her pajamas.
You'll laugh about it now.
We'll pick you up.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? Today's episode is a very personal and special episode. With the 24-year anniversary of September 11th, I decided to have a family episode. For those of you that may be new to the channel, I lost my father when I was 12 years old. He was on the 105th floor of the World Trade Center, and I decided to do this recording at Ground Zero, at the 9/11 Memorial with my mother, my two sisters. They've all been on the podcast before, but we never did it in this style where all four of us got together on very sacred ground, if you will. So this is a very cool conversation, not only just to get a little bit more personal and share the story amongst you guys with my family, but to do it at the place our father died was a very special experience. So I hope you enjoy this episode. We tried to have a dynamic to understand each individual's experience of grief and give my mom and my sisters a chance to talk amongst each other to see if there's anything that they wanted to talk about. That's pretty much all I got to say. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Sending love to anyone else that was affected on that day. And a big personal reason why I started this podcast was because I lost my dad in such a public way. I always get those text messages. Reminding me, sending love, and notifying me that they're thinking of me that day. But what about the other people that lose someone on a normal Tuesday, on a normal day that don't get that recognition because it wasn't so public? So this podcast is dedicated to everyone else who has lost someone in their life and is willing to explore the conversation of death. And it all starts here with my family. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you all for supporting the show, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. All right, well, family, my ladies, Jacqueline, my mother, Rosanna, for everyone that remembers her,
David.
Gina, I want to thank you all for being here again for the second time. This means a lot. And for everyone that's not watching on, I guess, YouTube, we are literally at 9/11 Memorial right now. We're on site about, a couple, like 100 yards from, not even 100 yards, but like 100 feet from where it all happened. So this is a very special episode for us to do this on site, even though it's not as humid as I expected, thank God. Last time, I just want to start this off a little bit. We've had the individual episodes, obviously with you, me, and Jacqueline, and me and my mom. So I wanted to, the conversation as usual is going to go where it has to go, but I thought it'd be interesting to have a conversation kind of focusing more on your experiences together, you know, as the women of the family, and whatever comes up with my involvement, that's fine. But I'm curious to see the dynamic between mother to daughter and the individual aspect as being two different daughters for what matter, and comparing those experiences. So when I talk, feel free to jump in, whoever wants to take whatever question. But let's start from the beginning, I guess, that day, because Gina, you just got to college, and Jacqueline, you were more local.
I was home. I was in college, but I was at home.
Right.
College.
So I guess maybe, so were you the first one, who connected with mom first when you guys first found the news?
My cousin Teresa.
Teresa told you.
I was working. I started my first day on the job. My first day was on the job. And I got a phone call from the principal's office because I worked at a school. And I got on the phone with her and she said, David work at the World Trade Center? And I says, yeah. She goes, it just got hit by the planes. And so I said, okay, I got to get to my desk. I says, let's just not get crazy now. Let me go back to my office. And that's what I did. And as I was going there, there were TV screens and I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that was happening. It was too surreal, you know. It felt like it wasn't really happening.
What was the first call you made? Like,
I didn't make it first. That was the first call I got to tell me.
Right, yeah, I know.
But the first call I made was my mother-in-law, was Grandma, Nanny. Because that was the first thing I had to call her, and she's screaming on the phone. And I was trying to calm her down.
Who brought her over?
Andrea.
Okay. It was a blur. Everything was,
she was in Brooklyn, so once she got the call, she went there. It was a lot of chaos involved, but that's the only time I remember. Just I had to get home, and I knew you were away, and you were away at school, but home, local, and you were in school. You were only in middle school.
Seventh grade.
Middle school. So I had to get home. So
who did you talk to, Gina or Jacqueline first?
I think
Jacqueline was the first one because when I got home, you were there, freaking out, and I said, "We got to get in the house. Let's just get in the house and let's just wait for Gina."
Yeah,
and
but
I remember.
Yeah, it wasn't like today. We had just gotten cell phones but we didn't use them like today.
No,
there was
we
like the
had no
flip phone.
phones. There was
I
no
think I got in
phones.
touch with Jeffrey first, which is your husband now. But at the time, nobody was picking up the phone. I woke up, my roommate woke me up, but I called Dad. I called Dad's
That's what I
phone
did, yeah.
line at work, but nobody picked up. It was
Nobody
just
picked
ringing.
Yep.
So I couldn't get in touch with anybody. And then my roommate drove me home. And then that's when kind of everything.
Yeah.
Did you just head home before even touching base with mom or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Jen was-
couldn't. Jeffrey spoke to Gina. I spoke to Mom, saying, "Come home," because I was home by myself. Nobody was home,
Yeah.
except cousin Michael, because he was leaving the house as I was coming
Right,
down
right.
the street, and the radio was all sounded like it was AM.
Yeah, we done no
Like I
phone.
couldn't get any radio on, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then I hear like on the news like the buildings collapsed, and I couldn't get all the information. And then I see cousin Michael, and I'm like, and that's when I went home. I turned the TV on, and I saw.
Buildings didn't collapse right away, though.
No.
I was unaware of the collapse till like a day later.
A day later?
Yeah, I didn't
yeah, I
know
forgot
about
about
it.
that.
I was so, everything was just chaos.
No, you just didn't watch the TV.
I didn't
think.
watch it today.
That's
I
so
saw
she
it
was.
once.
She
When
was
I saw
acting.
it once,
She didn't. She was just acting from people telling her information. But
I did see it one time.
I heard it on the radio. But by the time I got home, they had already been falling.
See, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I just got it to where the plane hit the second building, and that's when I realized this is real. And that's when I had to run home and get to her, get to you. I was worried about you. My God, I didn't want you to get the information. I wanted you to. I don't know. It was just so crazy.
Do you remember seeing Gina for the first time or like that interaction the first day?
You went to
Yeah,
go pick her up.
Gina came through the garage, and she was like in her pajamas. She was like literally in her pajamas.
You got dropped off.
I can laugh about it now.
Who picked
Yeah.
you up?
Yeah. No, my roommate Carrie, God bless her, she drove me home.
Oh,
but I
that's right.
literally was I just literally got out of bed and they were like, just go, let's just get in the car and go. Thinking about it now is kind of, the whole thing's still
What was
crazy.
Gina like? When it was just like going to get it, and I know you wear your heart on your sleeve for anyone that doesn't know Jacqueline. But what was did you notice anything between the two of you, or how you guys both?
No, it was just like,
Shock. That's all I saw.
yeah, because
Our
Jeffrey and Justin
Jack-
were at the
everybody
house,
was just like,
and she came in, and it was like a lot of
Shock.
just like crying and like
because that's when
screaming a
everybody
little
started
bit.
coming.
Because
I still had hope though. I had oddly
Yeah, everybody-
this
yeah, you did have
weird,
some
oh,
hope,
he's going to get
because-
out.
yeah.
He's going to be fine. He'll get
Yeah.
out. Because they were,
Everybody never- it's true. We
you
did
never
have
knew.
hope.
You were piecing together
Very
information.
first day, the
Friends
very
were calling like,
first
my dad got out, he's home. So we thought,
we'll find
we
him.
had hope that it would be
Yeah.
like maybe he'll call us.
Right, until the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, the news would come. The newscasters were saying, post his picture, show
Yeah.
us his picture, tell us information. So it
Right.
was like you were
And phone-
looking for him.
Right. And,
Went to the hospitals.
and the phone calls I was getting, you got to find this. If you can go to such and such's house, they're going to have
Right.
a news camera there. You could explain to how, to find your husband, going on and on. Remember the broadcast I had to do? I didn't want to do that. I did not want to do that. But you ended up doing it for me.
Well, that came up naturally. How long ago was that? 'Cause
That was like a day 2, 3. That was like the third day.
It was really soon after.
It was in the middle. It was soon after. Yeah, it was like the third day.
Well, for context, because Jacqueline's clip resonated. There was
we
a
had
clip of Jacqueline
yeah.
talking.
Well, because I didn't want to do it. She kept saying, I'll do it, Ma. I said, all right. So I stood behind her, and then she did her thing, and I knew I couldn't do it. I knew we had to get the hell out.
And that was the next
Because
day?
in my mind, I'm thinking, it was about the third day, maybe the
Yeah.
second or third day.
It was soon
I
after.
said it
'cause
was
why-
very soon after. It was very soon after. But I remember, I realized at that point, like, this is a waste of time. Why am I going to broadcast myself on the news to look for Daddy? It was like, it just didn't make sense to me. And I didn't want to do it. And then that's when she literally took it away. She goes, I'm going to do it, Ma. And that's when it was good for her to do it in some ways because it did help. We got a lot of responses from people after
Just to
that.
clarify for people listening, this was the news. They were asking, like, we were announcing Dad.
This is on Channel 2
Looking
News,
for him and
CBS.
saying if you've
yeah.
seen
we
Daddy.
had like a
Showed a
poster
picture of him.
like
And
that
if
he
you
wears a
find him,
necklace.
yeah.
I mean, she didn't want to do it, but then there was this like younger person who at the time had to be like 25 maybe. It was her
Yeah.
fiance was missing, and
Yeah.
she was like, I can't go on. And I was like yelling at her to do it. I was like, you have to do it. I don't know why I did that. Like,
Yeah,
what would
it was
I know? I was
important. At the
19.
time, it was important to you. To me, I felt like
yeah, I felt like it was the
I
only
was
thing to
showing
do.
it was just too personal. I can't explain it. I mean, I could, but we'll be here all day. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't do it. But in some ways, it was good for her because she needed to. You really needed to do it. She needed to do it because it helped her. That that had to be one way of trying to find Dad. Somehow we got to find something.
There's
you
something
know?
to do.
Exactly.
But it was
Again, there was so
everyone.
much
Nobody
yelling
knew
and
it.
Yeah, of
crying.
course.
But there were so many
Of course.
people. And you think about that poor girl
Yeah, it was.
that
It
who
was
lost
just-
her
It was
fiance.
just a very, very.
So at what
Very
point
crazy.
did you, I mean, because you, Gina, you said, and all of you did, you felt hope for many reasons. Do any of you remember a moment where you're like, he's not coming home?
I knew the minute I woke up that morning.
In September 12th?
Yeah.
Well, what, you just felt
I
it?
just knew.
Yeah. I think you knew sooner than we were. I think we were all, I don't know. I was in
Part
denial
of me, I
for a
had
long
that
time.
hope. I really did. I had some hope, but it was too long. When I realized that it was just the fire, the way it hit the building and the smoke. I said, they had to be killed by the smoke. There's no way they could have survived that smoke. So those are the things that I felt I was. But then I still remained some hope because I wanted, especially with David and you guys, I wanted to have them to feel that there was hope,
Yeah.
that there was. You never know. I mean, even if we found him gone, at least we had him. We had that, you know. And
I don't
it just
remember though
wasn't
talking
that.
about it though.
No, we didn't.
Like we didn't all sit collectively, I think, as a family and go
started
over.
at
Like I don't
nighttime.
remember conversing with you at all
No, you were in shock. You were
for
in total
like
shock.
weeks
I don't remember that
after.
either, because she was saying we used to sit at the
She
dinner
was
table and
shocked.
have.
We had dinner table. Yeah, when
I think it was when everything settled.
When everybody
Yeah,
left, because
yeah.
they were for the first 3 nights, people were sleeping over.
Yeah.
You know, we had people over. We had Nanny, my mother, my brother flew up, drove up from Florida.
And
So we
Andrea.
had people over for a good 6 days, and then finally we had to kind of like they had to go back. I had to go back to work, and I had to get these kids back to normal. They had to go back to school. We couldn't stay like this. And then one thing that really pushed it was, said, "Ma, can you stop making home cooked meals?"
She said that? Gina said
Yeah,
that?
I think
Jack-
they both
we were
said
both
it.
like, can we please?
We
can
don't
you
want
cook-
people giving us food anymore. We want to eat your food. I was like, okay. That was like a nice light for me. It was like, okay, yes, we gotta get going.
Yeah.
We gotta just keep moving. We gotta get
It was just
through
the
this.
first of everything. The first dinner
It was
without
the
him. It
first,
was like then the
yeah. And then it became a
then,
ritual every night.
you know,
we
all the
talked.
holidays that came
Yeah.
up, all the birthdays that were coming up. It was all those.
But the evening dinners were important, and we did talk, and we did cry, and we did. It was
Yeah.
important. It was important to express it. You were like, again,
I
you were
remember
very.
nothing. I don't remember
You
any
were
of that.
very quiet. You kept looking at the TV constantly, and I kept telling, get away from the TV, and that was tough. That TV, I wanted to throw.
Well, the first night
I
we
wanted to
slept
throw
in
a
the same
chair
bed.
into it. I couldn't stand
Remember,
the
it was
TV.
like getting nighttime and we had to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we didn't
that
wanna go to
Oh,
scared
sleep.
you
me.
guys or all of us?
I think all of us were in Gina's room. We weren't even in like our bedrooms.
Yeah, I went to bed. I was trying to go to bed, and then I heard planes go over the house, and I jumped out of bed because I thought they were going to start bombing. That's a fear I had. Jumped to the front of the house, and they go, no, it's just a plane. And it took me a while to go back to sleep. So I don't know who was there. There was a few people, family members that were there, but that was the horrible feeling because
The
you didn't
nighttime.
know if this was going to be a war, and if this was going to be a war on our turf, and it was just. We didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. And then as days progressed, then you started getting calls. And then, of course, you know, when anybody is missing or gone, you just got to get your act together. Then, of course, finding out that you can go down to the site and find them. And I didn't want to go because I didn't want you to go. So you stood home with me. And that's when my cousin Teresa told me, Rosanna, the building collapsed. And I couldn't believe it. I don't even think I was able to talk. I was like, oh my God. I didn't even know. I had no clue.
But pivoting a little bit, isn't it? I mean, all these years later, but being here,
Yeah, it's wild.
like literally just walking through, it's so personal for us, but it's so unpersonal for all these
Yeah.
people that are walking through the memorial. There's thousands of people that walk through every day and have no.
That's why it's
Like
hard.
it's just very strange to me still that we're here and this is
Yeah.
we have a person connected to us here, but
It is weird because I think about when I go to a new city or wherever, and I was just
It's not a
traveling recently, I was
normal-
walking through like museums, and
Yeah.
I got history from wars in the past. I'm not comparing it to a war, but just talking about the deceased in a historical context.
Yeah,
This is an
right.
historical context.
Yeah.
And you feel it, like it's emotional because it's real and it's sad. But yes, having done that and then walking through here, be like, oh no, my dad was here.
Yeah, but you're right. It's like anyone that lost a loved one from a historic,
How does it all feel to be here? Like we're jumping back and forth a little bit. We'll get back to the more immediate, like that.
We
past
weren't
stuff.
alone. When you think about the thousands of people that died, we weren't alone. But yet, we felt alone. Isn't that weird? No matter how many people did die, it was just, you couldn't be private. And that was the hardest thing to accept.
A little bit.
Is to be private. We didn't have any privacy. And to grieve in private. That was the hardest thing to go through for me. And then for my children, I just wanted to get back to normalcy and do it our way, rather than having the news and the reporters and people calling. It was just.
It was tough then, but I think now
now compared to God, you're talking what 23 years this year, right?
But it's nice to have a memorial like this.
Yes,
if you think about it, this grand memorial, this beautiful.
It is.
Well, and we experienced like how it all evolved. So we were here when the smoke was rising. We were here at the first memorial where we walked down a hole and put roses down on a hollow ground, for years until it changed. Like we were here for the evolution of this whole entire thing.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it is like a weird representation of your process in general. Like seeing in the chaos of the rubble. And now it's like,
you feel like
does
you're
it
in a movie.
represent our whole personal experience of grieving in general, like a bizarre way?
Yeah, because
it
we were in a
took a long
movie,
time.
right? I felt like it wasn't happening. We were just going with emotions. Like, this is real. Didn't feel real. Nothing felt real. But I knew I had to go through it, And pulling you three next to me, we just had to get through it. It
still doesn't feel real. Like even when
it's true. Sometimes it does. It hits me. It's like,
well, I think the loss of it on a daily feels real, that you actually lost someone. But then when you put it in this big, the way, thousands of people lost their lives, that seems like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just becomes it's like a numbers thing. Like when it gets jumbled into all together, and I'm not like saying it from like, I have to know my dad was a part of that clearly, but it's like it is weird when it's an experience where thousands of people died, and then it's like, does that confuse any of you at any point? But like, okay, but did it always just feel like it was just daddy? Like at what point did it? I guess.
No, I always try not to separate it because I didn't want to. How do I explain this? It's more
they were
like
all together. It was always collective. There's moments you're like, oh, it's daddy, but then there's also. I always thought about the other people.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because
and
you
I
knew firemen,
I couldn't separate him from all them.
Yeah, there's no way to separate
He died with them. They suffered. The families are suffering the way we are. So we weren't alone, but yet you are alone because you don't, you can't grieve with those thousands of people. But they were always with me, the people with him that he died with.
What I'm curious about from your dynamic, again, to hyper focus on, I guess, your personal experiences with you, because again, you handled it, in my opinion, like you handled it in a way that I couldn't expect any other way. You know what I mean? In regards to like putting you up here, how did you compare? What was your experience individually working with, like it's a job? Well, having that relationship with mom during your experience getting through it. I'll start with you, Jacqueline, but is there anything in particular that you noticed or that stood out?
I mean,
you had your sister and your brother.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was always like constant, okay, like Gina said, those are the first of things to do. The first time mom made us go back to school, we had to drop Gina off at school. You had to go back to school. It was all those like big first moments, and then your life just like was very different. Like it was picking up Gina every weekend from college because she couldn't handle being there. Jeffrey and I constantly driving up to Ramapo to go get him, feeling like I got to go to every one of David's games and be part of that community. And, I'm feeling like you don't want mom to be left home alone all the time, especially when Gina went back to school and stood there. I guess during the week, it took you like the whole year. You really didn't stay at school.
Yeah.
It was heavy. That kind of stuff was different. And even just going out, like we would never make like going out with your friends. Like we would go out and then it would be like a crying fest. And you'd be like, let's just go home.
Yeah, it just wasn't normal for a long time. And I think everyone was dealing with it. They're in their own individual way. She hid a lot of stuff. And I think now
having mom?
Yeah, but I get why.
Yeah.
I think there was always like she just had to,
I was so
get up
unaware.
and go.
I thought because I remember like down the road. I remember when I would go downstairs in the basement, you might be on the couch. You're like, hey, okay, I don't know how long after it was, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step out, go out with my friends, and I'm like, you good? You're like, yeah, I'm good. And then you told me many years later, like maybe like 10, 15 years later, like that's when you would cry.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was.
Yeah, I think she
whatever.
would cry.
Did you know
she
that at
would
the
hide
time?
it. I'm sure.
I needed my moment
yeah,
alone.
she needed her moment alone. Yeah, but looking back now, I mean, even now having kids, like I think I understand a lot more now than of what
And
she was going through versus
and
at the time.
being like he was pretty much Jake's age, right? Luke's age.
Yeah.
And
Jake. Yeah.
yeah. And you hear me so always like I was unaware. I could see that because like kids are resilient and like they understand things and they know like this they kind of get the severity of things, but they're also like in their own world of like, okay, I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm okay still.
Right.
Yeah.
Mom is
You
not
know?
there crying. That's what I didn't want
So
to do.
that's why maybe you felt clueless a little bit.
Yeah, and that kind of hurt. I mean, I like you were saying, like looking, I don't have kids to compare that motherly, or not a woman for that matter, that motherly protection mechanism. Like I feel like as a father, I'd want to do the same thing and bring, even when your kids, Jack, like show strength or whatever and be there for them. I get that, but like now looking back, I was like, damn, like I left you down there, and I'm not. This isn't me being like I don't feel guilty because like I'm just saying. But now looking back, it's like, like the burden.
The burden, but again, I must have said this before. You three were my strength. You three were the ones that pulled me out from ever falling into that deep, dark hole that I did not want to go spiral into. So just saying, I understand that your concerns and all, but you have no idea how much keeping busy, moving you guys to living as normal as possible, continue on with our lives.
It was helpful.
Helped me so much.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot too doing that, and learned a lot from everything. This is a huge experience for all of us, but that was the only way to do it.
Yeah, and the fast forwarding part when you're looking back at this being built, like when Jake, for everyone context again, your oldest son read the names. Was that the 20th anniversary?
That was the 20th. Yeah.
The
20th.
Yeah.
And so Jake was 10.
Yeah.
That was weird. Like that when talking about not feeling real,
Yeah,
like seeing him up
that
there and
blew
now
me
passing
away.
it down
Yeah.
and the degenerate. It's like that changes everything.
Yeah, it
Seeing
did.
Jake read his name and
That
again,
was
And the heaviness too, like you would think like when him and I sat by where they read the names for like 2 hours before we even got to, and he's listening to all those people say, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my husband, and he would look at me and be like, his brother? Like the reality of it was like setting in, and he was so good the whole time. And then once he read those names and he came off the stage, did you see him? You saw him. He just like broke down.
Yeah.
And he's 10. So like,
really,
those things are
it hit
with
him.
you.
That was the most. We all held up pretty well with that. That Jake did a great job. And that really, I think it hit us more when we all got home. I know it hit me more.
I mean, it hit me
when I got
we had a
home.
view when I saw him cry. I
Yeah,
saw him leaning,
here I
I think
was
leaning
trying
to
to
you,
hold
perhaps.
up,
I think,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, he's
Yeah.
crying. That was just a pigeon.
And
Just a
my
pigeon,
kids
guys.
are now at the age where they're asking questions.
Questions, right.
Who was he? What was he like? Tell me stories. And I'm at the point now where I'm happy to
Sure.
and also tell the story about how he died. They're constantly asking me how he died. Where is he? All of that. And so I'm trying to prepare myself to tell that story.
How do you feel talking about it, Jay? Just like as we are now, like, what do you feel?
Yeah.
Is it just like a conversation at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you still have your moments. It still sometimes hits you and you're like, what the, like, and you cry and it's sad. And, but I think now, especially with my kids, I want them to know who he was.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where I don't want to forget him and I want my kids to know who he was. And, because I'm always thinking, if he was still alive, all the
Right.
things that might be different and, all they're missing out on. I'm trying not to focus on that, all the loss all the time, but what we have now.
When he first died, that's all you thought about.
That's all you
he's
thought
not going to
about.
be here for Dave's graduation. He's not going to be here for my wedding. And we did it. We did all those things. And then, seeing Jake read a name or, a milestone for you or Mom or Gina, or getting through like tragic things together, we're doing it. When it first happened, you were like, how do you even do this?
Yeah.
And those first, those first keep happening. Like your kids, for example, like you just explained the new milestones. I think when we talk about the first, there's immediate first, but then there's like the delayed first. Like when
Right.
you have kids and like you're this, that, the other. But those first hit differently, right? Like there's first, and then there's the secondary first, like down the line. It's like, it's like a different feeling of, it was like more sadness than I feel. And now it's still, sadness, but it's, I don't know. I brought it up recently. It's like it like has turned for me into gratefulness in many ways.
Yeah,
As corny
oh,
as that
yeah.
sounds to say, it's like,
That's-
it
no.
doesn't become, there's this, a little
Yeah.
sprinkle of sadness
Right.
there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's completely gone, but then like you say, now you have an opportunity to share his memory.
Right. Be
And I think
proud
that's
of
kind of
it.
healing in a sense too, or at least is the perception of the way where we've come from.
Right.
And also being proud of how you got through it. That's important for the kids to know. Because just everything in life is, but
Yeah, sometimes I feel proud, and sometimes I'm like, you
should feel
question it. I
proud,
don't I try to question this day and age as much, but like I'm like, retrospect.
yeah,
What the hell are we supposed to do?
I know. Well, we're here to learn, whatever that is. I'm still trying to figure it out. Just like but they are beyond. They are here with us, without a doubt. And I'll elaborate. I won't elaborate too much, but I did have a near-death experience, as you all know, last year. And during the moment that I had passed, it was between 8 to 11 minutes. And during that period, I didn't realize what I saw till 10 days after I was back home from the hospital. And Daddy, I saw Daddy. I didn't see Daddy, but he spoke to me in my left ear. And then to my right, they weren't bodies. I knew I wasn't in a body. I was in such a giddy mood. I was just like, wow, what is this? And then I looked to my right, and there I see, they weren't bodies, but I knew they were beings, that they were just, and there was my dad
presence.
stuck out the most, Grandpa, and then my mom. And then I knew there was the Antoinette. There were other and I was like, holy, and I was like giddy, laughing. And then your father says, you got to go back. And I went, gotta go back? I'm like, I couldn't understand it. He says, wait a minute. I says, I'm looking for my mother-in-law. Meanwhile, it was his mother. Don't ask me why I said that. And then I continued to look, and then I looked to my left, and there was another being, and it was, it took me a few seconds to realize who he was, and I knew it was a male. Like I said, it wasn't a body. It was just knew it.
Yeah.
And I realized it was my brother, it was Uncle Tom, because he had just recently passed. And I was like, wow. And I go, he's so quiet. I don't know why I had those thoughts. And all of a sudden, the second time your dad said to me again in my left ear, he goes, you got to go back. And then boom, that was it. It ended. But I was, from that point on, and then remembering after the whole year, I still relive it in my mind, try to go back to really honing in on it. But there is no doubt in my mind that you go to an amazing place, and that's where they are now. I really believe that. And I really believe they are always here with us. And they are constantly with us and guiding us. I know there are telltale signs that you might know, nobody else will, but they are so here. It's amazing. And guiding us. And that's where I think we got the strength from. Absolutely. I just remember the first time, if you want to go back 23 years ago when it first happened, some woman asked me a question, and she goes, I don't know how you do it. I go, I said, I'm not doing it. I wasn't doing it. I just felt like the hand of Jesus just pushing me. I was constantly being pushed. And I didn't fight it. I just went with it. And I knew going with it was going to show me. And that's really the whole gist of really what we're talking about, is the strength that you have getting through it. And I don't feel like I'm alone with this. I'm sure many, many families feel the same way I do.
And I mean, and back to that, I'm not going to get into the heavy details of that experience, but
The near-death experience.
I mean, just in general, the whole time of when we almost lost you,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
something else.
I'm healthy, by the way. There was nothing really
she's
wrong.
like, I mean,
it was a
she's
freak thing,
running-
very
she's
freaky
biking
thing.
11 miles.
They don't even know why it happened. It was just cardiac arrest. They have no clue.
But
Anyway.
that experience, again, for me, it was unique because, again, like that was a weird opportunity. I don't want to call it an opportunity, but it was.
Yeah, it was.
We've talked about this many times, but I was younger, and when 9/11 happened, and I was 12 years old, and I look back feeling that guilt of like not being there for you, and to have it's like not even having to feel like we were leaning on each other, which we all did, which is amazing. And like that's the crazy part about that experience was like this really being old enough to understand how much you guys are there for me and like being cognitive and old enough to be aware of that experience. Like I remember sitting in the ICU and just, I don't even think we were talking, but I was just like absorbing the whole thing, not even contemplating necessarily like, will you be okay? Is she going to survive it? Of course, that was the undercurrent, but it was just like looking at you and be like we're just here together. And the fact that we are, like, you guys are my rocks, and be able to like be cognitive of the moment within the chaos and finding the calm within that was something that I'll never forget. Like beyond the whole experience of what happened, it was just like looking at Gina, looking at Jacqueline, and obviously you there, and Ken and Jeff and everyone, of course, that was there. But just being old enough to be aware of what was happening, it felt like it felt like a second opportunity, like in a terrible way. And I hate to say opportunity, but it was just an experience. Like I felt, I don't know, it was just a weird experience to be old enough to like experience that with you. Yeah. And I feel like then growing up with what we went through in 9/11, like I was just young and I forget a lot. And it was like, I didn't have that experience to like understand it.
Yeah.
And as crazy as that was, it was a powerful experience.
It was, because there was like when someone was down, someone else was up.
Yes.
And it was like, if you were alone in that, I mean, that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I don't know what you guys are saying about me behind closed doors, but like the
I ain't saying what that.
If Jeff was here, he'd tell you.
Jeff would say, yeah, Jeff, Jacqueline's essentially my brother, would be talking. He might be talking shit as he's watching this episode. So thanks, Jeff. But just like that, to see that and to see, like, to actually understand what you guys were going through, it's from what I was able to see, that was a different experience for me. Because again, like I'm asking these questions to see what you went through, because I don't like remember a lot, and I was this, that, the other. But to like see you guys in that place was a lot. Like I don't ever want to see you guys like in that space.
Right? Yeah, no, of course. You like in a way you're prepared, but you're not prepared because you're like,
we were prepped for it.
Like, is this for real again? Like we have to do. Like we did. There was a short time where we thought we were going to lose you, and it was, my God, we have to go through this again. I mean, we're all going to die. We know that. Like we know light, eventually, but there's still a piece of you that isn't ever prepared for anything that comes. So.
Yeah, we weren't prepared, but we were prepared. Like we didn't know what to do, but we knew what to do.
Here is what prepared us. I mean, it changed our whole entire life.
Yeah.
So like that 9/11, 2001 changed the whole trajectory of our lives. The relationships that we were in, the people that stood by us, like it changed everything.
Yeah, like we knew we had that support, and it was always there from our first experience. And just since then, like I've always felt a ridiculous amount of support from all three of you and everyone around us. But to see the way, I don't know, like us three in particular, like rallied.
Yeah, it was a totally different dynamic.
But it was wild to me. Like I'm not surprised because I've always felt that like the solidifying relationship with you both. But to like be there and just be like I'd be there and you go home, shower. It was just very little things that were the biggest things.
Yeah.
It was just like it's just a constant stream of just, I don't even know the right word to explain it, but it was just it was easy when it was hard.
Yeah.
Because of you two. And like it was like in our relationship, we didn't get each other. I didn't feel any moment where it was like down each other's throats. It was just constant support.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have that's why sometimes I say when we've gone through what we've already gone through as a family.
It really was when you think about it. It was constant. It was like
constant.
One fell down, one picked you up. It was like
It's constant. It was remarkable. And like, of course, there's everyone else that came through. Everyone was just as much. It was there, but more intimately between us as brother and sisters. Of course, that's why I'm leaning into that. But it was like I was like so aware of it during it that I wasn't surprised. It was like I don't know how or why. Or we can talk about our early experience. It's just so mind blowing the relationship that, of course, all four of us had. But to see a brother and sisters come together like that.
Yeah.
It's remarkably grateful.
Well, that's what we're grateful
The power
for.
of love.
Yeah.
The power of love. And it starts from.
It is. What else is there? Love is being, whatever you want to call it. It's all
making
there.
a bumper sticker.
That's what it's all about.
I know, and you're the core, and you've raised us.
I always know the part of that core. Everyone,
but even
Lewis.
I always think like if dad
all
were
the
to walk into the room, like what, like literally, like what would he say? I'm always thinking that, like, oh my God, what would he be thinking right now?
Know so bad.
Would he be laughing at us?
Oh,
or
No,
he's laughing.
definitely laughing.
He's definitely
for sure.
laughing. without a
always-
doubt.
Whereas not having a dream that you had about him.
Oh,
his
God,
hitting
I
his
had
head,
the
and I
horrible
had-
dreams.
No, don't even
Everyone talks about
don't
the
elaborate
dream.
on that one.
I think he would. I think he would. I don't know. I think he would be like just overwhelmed because like he was not always super affectionate, but you always felt loved by him. Like, and I feel like he would just have done that. He would have continued to do that.
Yeah.
I think he
It-
just would have been like so proud because he was always proud.
Yeah.
But he was like a quiet proud.
Yeah.
That is interesting you say that. The one thing I do remember, like he wouldn't like, he would still be affectionate,
Affectionate, yeah.
but not like not
Not mushy,
overly
yeah.
affectionate. But you really you would know. Like I never
would
had any
know.
question without beyond that he loved us.
No, in your quiet moment, he hugged you more. Maybe it wasn't with so many people around you.
He would do
but
it differently. He would do it like in a fart.
I was in what?
I would say he would show love in like a fart. Like I'm half kidding, but not really at all.
But we were affectionate with him.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
very,
Yeah.
very. I would
So
always.
that's I think what made him
Yeah.
more. So
Yeah.
that's why I feel like he would just be like,
He would just smile. I'd give
Yeah.
him a hug, and he would just smile.
yeah.
Subtle. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it, Ma. I mean, we've talked about it, but like it's just
Yeah,
like
talked
you said, you got a little.
You know what?
push, I think,
We
to
should
feel
do. We should get another, family.
Get another family.
Get another 9/11 family, and not now, but I
Yeah.
mean, just in
I
general.
agree. I think that's another dynamic too, because we've always discussed it within Eternally, but I haven't really spoke to someone else. I think I've reached out to people, but it would be interesting to see.
Well, look at
different
Uncle Logan. He
dynamics.
went through it. He saw it, lost his own. But, the people that really experience a loss, too.
Yeah, Joanne and
Joanne
Andrea. Like
and
she lost her
Andrea.
brother.
that have
Yeah,
totally
I mean,
different stories
I
than
feel
we
like
do.
I said-
Putting them involved and having them share that. Not many people want to, but maybe that's not a
another
bad
thing.
idea.
I may have said it. I think when I texted her one time, I believe I did. But and Andrea is another. I'm first names. We're using first
know.
names. Like she lost her brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's something that I feel.
That's all she had.
I don't like
was
using
just
the
him.
guilty word, but it's like it kind of gets lost sometimes. I know. Obviously, when she's there, I think I'm aware
We
of
were
it.
her strength as much as she was our strength.
They're all incredible.
Yeah. But those are the things we could discuss, definitely.
Yeah.
But with Joanne, yeah. Joanne lost her son, her brother.
But that's another thing. We lost. Like, obviously, I think
I
within
have
this
friends,
community.
so many friends. I know another
Right.
good friend of mine lost her brother, and so many people we knew.
That's the thing. It's
It's
like
not just Dave,
from
it was
these people
just
specifically
Daddy.
that are walking around us right now in the memorial.
Yeah.
It's like
We knew
all
those
these people,
people.
but within that
We
grew
knew
in a
all
co-
personally
yes.
these people.
We knew people that knew people, and it was like so. It was that
yes.
different camaraderie within that.
Yes. I would
know what
love
I
to be
mean?
in touch with some of them. I lost touch with them.
I would
It's
love
so
to hear
messed up.
stories too.
Yeah.
Just stories, people that knew Daddy,
Yeah.
that survived, and I would love to hear more about that.
Specifically with the relationship to Dad, or just
Yeah.
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 That's what we did with the scrapbook.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I would
and it
love
was
to do
like-
that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we should
people
bring- we
emailed me
should-
their stories, so now
Right.
it's inevitably the same
Look
thing,
at this. We're
right?
discussing what we want to do. You better cut this off. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
But,
sorry. I'll put it out there, and we're gonna do it. It's
No,
okay.
but that's
now we're
that's
accountable.
actually a very good idea.
Like look around. I guess it's such a weird moment right now. We're
And
literally
what's
having this
nice about it,
conversation.
the only thing that's really nice that we're here for the anniversary already, because we're not going to be together on the anniversary. So this
Yeah.
is nice that we are all here for the 23rd year, which is only 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, 23rd year.
No, it's a month. It's a month.
23. Yeah, 23rd year.
Exactly a month from now.
Like, look,
From
we got
today.
this guy sleeping behind us.
I know.
I wish I had a zoom in pan on that guy sleeping behind us while this is happening. We're boring him to death in the 9/11 memorial.
No, but it is wild. It is.
Father would be doing
It is
be here.
wild. So,
I'm glad we did this.
and I appreciate you girls
I know.
coming
Thank
on
you,
here. Is there
Dave.
anything
You
else?
did a great job.
Anything you feel like you need to get off your chest
No.
in front of the world? All these millions
No.
of people that are listening.
You shouldn't feel guilt anymore. I know you struggle with feel guilt, but you shouldn't. 'Cause I think we were all in our own kind of world when we were going
it's
through it,
softened.
and
It's softened. And I think it's more like, I don't know how to say cognitive than emotionally in my body now. It's just like, I'm like thinking about it logically as opposed to maybe feeling it like I did.
yeah, you.
And talking about it and doing things like this is like helpful.
Yeah. Well, this is his therapy. Doing the podcast is your therapy. It's been your therapy,
Yeah.
I think. I think this is the best thing you do for yourself and for so many people. I really feel that.
Well, that's why, again, I said this before. I think
This
it's
is where it's coming from.
What?
I don't know. I think again, like what you were saying about hearing other families. That's why I think this conversation is very important. It's like we're putting ourselves out there, yes, but there's a deeper meaning to that. It's not to like put ourselves on camera and say, "Oh, look at us. This is our story." It's the family dynamic, I think, is just something that I am not able to encapsulate on my episodes all the time. It's usually individual, and we did that with our own individual episodes. If you haven't listened, go back and listen. But it's like to have a dynamic, because that's the multi-layer of this experience. It's my experience, your experience, all individually, and then those individual experiences come together, and then different rearrangements of those between you and me. And it's like to have these conversations.
And that Daddy was here, and he was here, and giving tribute to his life.
Right here. Like literally, we're in between both buildings right now.
It is. Everything's weird. Everything's crazy. Everything's just surreal.
But then when it's weird when things are a memory, it becomes like a dream.
Yeah, it is a dream. It probably was a dream. We're probably still in a dream. We don't even realize it.
Yeah, I don't know. They snap out of it. I feel bad for you because the sun's been on your face the last like 20 minutes, like directly on your face.
No, it's actually fine.
Okay, I'm fine. Well, Gina, Jacqueline, Mom, I want to thank you so much for doing this again. And I mean, you guys already know how much. So I don't have to get sappy on this right now. You already know how much you all mean to me. I love you more than anything. I'm proud for a little bit for you guys to listen, watch, and have just a glimpse of who you three are. Because I know you're not as very public people, obviously, and I'm more than proud to just.
It turned out better than I thought.
What's that?
It turned out better than I thought. Being out here.
Well, you do worry, so I
was always concerned, but it worked out better.
Well,
it worked out fine.
Like literally,
I didn't know someone's going to jump in. Who knows?
I was kind of. I hope a pigeon.
I wasn't even thinking that.
Ran into your head. We were like a foot away from it a second ago. That would have been nice, but the loves of my life. I really love all three of you so much. Thank you for being here, and another episode of Dead Talks, and maybe we'll do it again down the road.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.